a dustman, he wears a dustman's hat. He wears gore-blimey trousers and he lives in the council flat. He looks a proper nana in his great big bobtail boots. He's got such a job to pull them up, but he calls them daisy roots. Some folks give tips at Christmas and some of them forget. So when he picks their bins up, he spills some on the step. Now one old man got nasty and to the council wrote, next time my old man went round there, he punched him up the throat.
In this presentation, I will be exploring waste and how much we produce and what different kinds there are. I will also be examining some effects of our values and behaviours have on our planet and what will happen if we continue over-consuming and wasting and how we can combat these issues.
From this to this. The remote hills of the West Bank are fast becoming an eyesore. By the hour, noisy garbage trucks dump waste from Jerusalem and its surrounding areas here. Far enough to keep the stench of garbage away from city dwellers, but close enough for some to conclude it's making the Bedouin tribes who inhabit these hills sick.
Long ago, when there were no humans on the earth, there was no waste. Nature wastes nothing and recycles everything. Then humans came along making metals, clay pots, houses, etc. And as technology has advanced, in the Industrial Revolution mainly, in industrialised nations, unnatural waste was produced. Traditionally, waste is an offensive concept because it is symbolic of things like lack of hygiene, health hazard, worthlessness and disregard. For example, you wouldn't throw your domestic bin bags into next door's gardens, would you? However, we do dispose of our waste in the ocean. Interesting. In 1994, the common European definition of waste has been any substance or object which the producer or the person in possession of it discards. Furthermore, the definition of discard is a substance or object that has been discarded is no longer part of the normal commercial cycle of chain of utility, in which the commercial cycle, being media, has a lot of power over the chain of utility, what has value. This is a consequence of market liberalist and capitalist ideologies and practice, such as market liberalists believe that we live in a fair world for those who work hard, meritocracy. Furthermore, market liberalists believe in the free market where there are many suppliers and a variety of products offered. We buy these products / commodities with our money, in turn creates waste that no longer has value to us. This means in market liberalist terms, waste is no longer profitable. It doesn't make any money, that's why we produce so much of it, because nobody cares about the consequences. In turn indicates waste is at the end of the production chain. In 2009, a study was made that was recorded and put into Fact File 2012, the book that states the average spend per household per week was £764. This is 3 times the amount from 1999 that was just £241. Local shopping was £67 and is now £86. Food and drink was £81 and is now £251. The amount of energy was £16 and is now £156. These examples show how over time we waste more, spend more, and it is slowly destroying our planet, as the Marxist Althusser, who did the ideological state apparatus, would argue, due to big industries and businesses owned by the ruling class. Domestic waste is usually collected by refuse trucks as well as other local waste, and it is taken to a local waste disposal centre. Most of it is buried or burned. Other options are less used due to pollution, such as piping waste into waterways, sea dumping and deep disposals. In some countries, waste is put into landfills that are big holes in the ground that are more than 5,000 in the USA. This could be seen as a consequence of postmodernism and globalisation, where free market economies and ideologies have taken hold throughout numerous countries and encouraged them to produce waste on a mass scale. Landfill problems include smell, wind-blown rubbish and litter, pests e.g. rats and flies that spread disease and chemicals, and toxic materials leak into the ground. Methane is produced of scrap food that can leak into the ground thousands of metres and cause explosions because methane burns well. This all adds to the greenhouse effect and global warming. Landfill sites are then covered over with trees, etc., simply just hiding the problem, which relates to the laissez-faire, which is a French term that literally means let them do it, but it broadly implies let it be, let them do as they will, or leave it alone. I believe a laissez-faire state is the reason why waste is such a huge global crisis, because people are too tied up in their lives regarding money and commodities. The throwaway attitude is encouraged by advertising on television, magazines and other forms of media that communicates ideologies with expectations that we must have the latest and newest. As well as technology advancing quickly, older technologies become out of date, producing more waste such as television. New ones are more advanced regarding picture quality, etc. So old ones are disposed of. For example, where has the old Nokia mobile gone? Consumerist culture does not value consequence or the wider world since it focuses on the self, the ego and personal satisfaction rather than sacrifice. Thus, manufacturers take no responsibility for the waste their packages produce, and in turn, neither do the consumers. 2.5 million pieces of litter are dropped on the UK streets every day. Half of us admit doing it at some time. 30 million tonnes of litter are collected every year in the UK, costing 858 million a year to clean it up. Types of litter: fast foods was most common. Confectionery litter is second, smoking is third, cans and bottles being fourth, and that's just the start. Because we see this type of litter, it tells us a lot about our first world post-industrial culture. McDonald's are the highest, followed by Cadbury's, Greggs, Wrigley's, Coca-Cola and Mars. In Britain, the maximum fine is £2,550 for persistent littering. Local councils decide the amount of fines given in their area. Littering on a global scale possesses bigger fines. For example, the BP oil spill in America was given a fine of £21 billion. The Bhopal disaster was fined $470 million for their toxic waste and its effect on the surrounding people. The base/superstructure model consists of the ruling class such as the big brands. It can be viewed as a house, the base consisting of land, capital and labour. The top floor consists of culture, education, family, basically society. The base, those in power, control everything else, that being the proletariat and the bourgeoisie. In turn, Marxists would argue it's the manufacturer's responsibility and not the consumer's, but this needs government legislation to change things, encouraged by voters' demands. Fresh water is a scarce resource and demand is growing. We need to look at our personal water footprint. In many parts of the world, water supply is already on a high demand, affecting third world countries, where many people don't have access to safe water. The developed world has more of a demand on water. This is due to the increasing population of the planet and the climate change that has made very wet or dry places on the earth. Each person in the UK uses 150 litres of tap water daily on average, which is 3,400 litres every day. Food, non-food products like beer, burgers, clothing, cars, homes and even electricity have water embedded in them. We import many goods and services. Much of our embedded water that we consume, around about 70% of our water footprint, comes from other countries. As the population grows, electricity has a higher demand, and in Western countries such as Britain, America, for example, all use more than that is needed, and nuclear power, using uranium as fuel, is the future. This can be seen as a threat to the environment and people due to toxic waste such as radioactive waste. However, nuclear power is clean energy and reduces carbon emissions, according to Bruno Combe, who documented it in The Benefits of Nuclear Energy. We have giant tanks of radioactive waste at the major US nuclear site of Hanford, Washington, and each drum holds 1 million gallons each that will need monitoring for centuries. There are three types of radioactive waste: low level, where the radioactive lasts for a few decades, then medium level that lasts for thousands of years. Lastly, there is high level that lasts for millions of years. 20% of our total waste is from households, where the most waste is produced from industries and businesses such as manufacturers, mining and building, producing energy, etc. So we could say that manufacturers and businesses are responsible for the waste mountain. Marxists would argue this is because of capitalist values such as individualism, yourself, competition against everyone, profit, money, pseudo-individualism, yourself, materialism, the want of objects, for example. Consumers need to take responsibility as well as manufacturers and government. Every day we buy manufactured items that cause waste, so surely we, the consumer, should take responsibility. But for everyone to take responsibility, we need community, unity, togetherness and social cohesion. However, in the 21st century, technology denies us from the full extent of our human experiences. Communitarianism is an ideology that emphasises the responsibility of the individual to the community and the social importance of family unit. The Communitarian Network, founded in 1993 by Amitsa Etzioni, is the best known group advocating communitarianism. This shows in relation to waste that every individual should be responsible for his or her own waste and recycle, etc., because they owe it to their community. Around the world, millions of cars hit the roads every year, yet motor manufacturers spend huge sums of money persuading us to buy even more cars. The main aim of big businesses is to make maximum profit, not to save waste and help the environment. Most developed countries have laws saying that sewage must be treated before disposal, but in some places human sewage goes untreated into rivers, lakes and the sea, mostly in developed countries such as Honduras and Dhaka. If there are only a few people in the area, human waste can just be recycled into plants, etc. However, in heavily crowded areas such as tourist areas, there is so much waste that it cannot be recycled. We cannot keep creating waste, using up the planet's resources and materials, filling up landfills, polluting the land, the seas, the air. We must act quickly. Some countries have already started with campaigns and systems to tackle the problem, such as Ireland. We should not give in before we start. Our aim is to leave no waste at all. The 4 R's are reduce, recycle, reuse and reprocess. We should aim to cut the amount of waste we produce and then recycle, reuse, then reprocess any that is left over, such as plastic bottles that should be reused instead of buying another one or recycled. It then reuse it in other forms such as plastic forks, then do it all over again. We all can help, but big companies and government can have the greatest effect using technologies, new systems, passing new laws, possibly turn waste reduction, collection, recycle and disposal into big, profitable and most importantly, sustainable businesses. Waste can either go up into the atmosphere, down into landfills, lakes and the sea, or recycled. The 2 main methods are landfills and incineration. New technology needs to be developed to make these safer all around, as well as improving landfill locations because of the problem of leakage or rainwater mixing with chemicals. Furthermore, stop producing products that are difficult to recycle, in turn produce biodegradable products that are easy to recycle. For example, change plastic bags into biodegradable bags. If we socialise and inculture and teach our young children in lower school the values of recycle and to minimise waste, this will hopefully pass it onto the house, in turn the family, as well as the wider world on a global scale. This should be easy because of new quick technologies such as our iPads and phones that have made a global village in which the people in it should value waste as part of our socialisation. There is a famous saying, one man's trash is another man's treasure, and with relation to art in which it has discourse language such as assemblage and bricolage, trash, which is regarded as unwanted discard, has been manipulated and turned into something new which rehabilitates rubbish, such as Tim Noble and Sue Webster, who are artists and studied art at a university, who created art by assemblage trash into structure and made something completely new. Another famous trash art is the House of Contamination. In less than 2 hours, which is roughly the length of an A-level lesson, the UK has produced enough waste to fill Albert Hall in London, and every 8 months the UK produces enough waste to fill Windermere, the largest and deepest lake in England. It is up to you to make the difference. Every little